strength to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive. So when you
And everyone comes up his report. Cooperation with the Veterans Day Parade Committee, the military, and the city of Phoenix. Phoenix VA's care system is proud to make this year's parade possible. Heading to Senate Director Donald Ford and his 2,000 employees are proud to serve as America's finest.
And this is the 108th Army Band of the Air National.
God bless America, everybody in the world. Even though I'm homeless, I'm still looking nice. But one reason, this is only experience. Thank you.
Just one day a year is the only day they're going to get appreciated for. You know, they say they're going to give benefits, give them these jobs and give them these bonuses and, you know, give them a nice place to live and a car, or it hasn't happened.
When I was sitting and I was watching all the flags go down the highway on the back of people's cars, and my jaw was bouncing off the ground, and I watched the news program. I remember I came out of my ditch and I watched the news program, and it was the first Veterans Day that I'd gone to in a long time, and this is what I told you the other day. They called us Vietnam vets heroes. For the first time in 20 years, somebody called us heroes. They never called us heroes before.
We estimate nationally there are approximately 200,000 homeless veterans on any given night, with as many as 400,000 to 500,000 experiencing homelessness throughout a year.
Now that, of course, is nonsense. There's no linkage between the economy and the veterans. According to Joseph Califano, perhaps America's best expert on substance abuse, up to 90% of homeless vets are addicted or mentally ill. The economy, again, has nothing to do with it.
Well, there's the same basic misconception about homeless people in general, that they're, you know, all lazy drug addicts. You know, this idea, I mean, there's a general for homeless people, veteran or otherwise.
Actually, it's a very small percentage of people that are, the veterans that are homeless. It's a very small percentage. I think, and the people that hold up these signs, will work for food or help the homeless vet, you know, that really sets a real short fuse with me. Because a lot of times they're not vets and they're playing off of that. For anybody to use being a veteran as somehow as something bad that enables you to be a bum on the streets, I don't buy that.
In general, you're looking at homelessness as a severe at-risk position, which would mean somebody's living in something they're lacking a fixed, regular place to live, somewhere. That could be anything from house hopping from one location to another.
The guy I was living with said I couldn't live with him any longer because I wasn't on a lease, I wasn't paying any bills because I had no job.
And the technical definition usually refers to somebody sleeping on the streets or staying in a publicly funded facility for homeless individuals.
This is the area that they used to call the zone. I don't know as it is too much anymore.
Homelessness in general estimates run anywhere from 2 to 3 million homeless people. When we look at the veteran population specifically, we're talking primarily single male adults, although there are female homeless veterans as well. They represent about 5% of the population.
Until I was 41 years old, I had a pretty good life. I worked as a nurse. I had not a spectacular apartment, but I had my own apartment and my own car, and I was on a bowling league and a pool league, and I had a life.
Any number of things that could happen to any general American, right, is a risk for a veteran.
And if I had recognized that pride is one of the 7 deadly sins a lot sooner, I had the whole mindset that I'm a Marine, I'm not going to ask for help, I can do this on my own, I'm tough as nails.
There are added risks associated with the service and the type of work that they do and coming back into society, so to speak.
You don't have a dime in your pocket. It costs 50 cents to make a phone call and $2.50 to get on the bus. And when you get to the job place to fill out the application, you don't have a phone number or an address. And I couldn't figure out how to get from A to B.
We're all sitting in the middle of what's being referred to as the largest economic downturn since the Great Depression. And that's a reality for veterans as well.
So it got to be a very vicious cycle. And I struggled with that for 5 years. I started driving a cab for a living, which with my education and my degree in nursing and everything and being a Marine, it was embarrassing. But I tried to be good at it. You know, whatever you're going to do, you try to be good at it.
When I was in the military, when I got out, my wife and I had split up, and basically if I didn't have my parents, I'd have been in the same situation.
That's part of the risk factor. It starts at, you know, how strong the social and family support network is, what conditions the veteran is facing.
It almost felt like I didn't belong in the family anymore. I felt so distant. Even though I was right next to them, I felt I was so distant from them.
As veterans use their social and family support networks to try to stabilize themselves, often while they're dealing with any potential issues, will start to burn those family and social resource networks. When that has diminished, that's the state where true homelessness usually occurs.
I end up moving with a couple that I was talking to, and they gave me a couch to sleep on until I get back on my own feet. And then that's where I broke my heel, and it's just been downhill ever since.
For veterans, that's typically been about 6 years post-discharge from the Vietnam era, but we're seeing in the Iraq and Afghanistan era about only 2 years from separation to homelessness, if it's going to occur. Keeping in mind, only about 1% of the veteran population ever becomes homeless. But when we're looking at homelessness among veterans, they're highly overrepresented inside of the homeless population. So while they're representing as much as 25 to 30% in the homeless population, they're only representing 10% of the civilian population. So that overrepresentation tells us there's something unique about this population.
I always grew up with the idea that we had a contract with men and women who served. If they took the time from their lives to serve in wars or military service, that then the contract was that the American government, with its taxpayers, would provide the benefits, whether it be education or health services or housing. So I've always seen it that it's an unwritten contract, I guess, an obligation that we have. If they took the responsibility to serve, then we have the responsibility to serve them.
The Grant and Per Diem program funds about 7,700 beds across the nation dedicated to serving homeless veterans. That number grows each year, but obviously against a population size of 200,000, there's quite a ways to go.
Basically, 2007, we started an increase where we provided more monies for veteran services, basically in the medical. One of the issues that is still out there, but we try to address by passing a bill, was mental health. We have had veterans come from the various wars, Vietnam, etc., and even today, that had suffered post-depression. And so we've now recognized that that is something that needs to be treated. And so we've passed legislation that provides more mental health.
Well, I was working for as an electrician. Had some legal problems. Ended up losing my driver's license. got busted for driving on a suspended license, trying to go to work to make money to pay the tickets to get the license back and that. And ended up losing the car, so then there's no way to get back and forth to work, so no money at all coming in. Stayed with some friends for a while until I wore out my welcome there, and then ended up coming here.
U.S. Vets is an organization dedicated to the successful reintegration of homeless veterans and at-risk veterans to their highest level of independence. The VA funds on our Phoenix facility 66 beds out of the 69 that we have available for homeless veterans.
We provide job search, computers, clothing, housing, you name it. We do just about everything they need.
Generally means we work with a veteran, a homeless veteran, or an at-risk veteran from where they're at and help progress that veteran from primarily a state of homelessness to self-sufficient, independent living with their own income sources and self-sufficient support.
I came here as a homeless and went through the program, and then I had some blood pressure problems. I lost my job. I needed something to do, so I started bugging the people here until they finally hired me. And these guys have done their part. Now it's our turn. That's how we pay back. That's how I do it anyway.
We work with the VA to follow that individual through their treatment process, and upon successful completion of whatever issue we're trying to stabilize, whether it be mental health or substance abuse. When we've got that stable, we then bring them to Victory Place.
If the guys come here and they want help, they'll do it. They'll bend over backwards for them.
I was actually seeing a woman before I went over. I was actually very happy with her when I went over. I only met her 6 months prior, before I got deployed. And after I came back, it seemed to fall in place, you know, fairly well. But after we lived together, that's when the tension started running high. Started seeing changes. She said I wasn't the same as before I went over. And I said, no, I'm still the same person, I'm still the same. And she goes, well, no, you're not. And I didn't really believe it at first, until I had like the third or fourth person tell me that I wasn't the same before I went over. That's when actually I said, well, you know, maybe I should go talk to a doctor. Maybe there is something wrong. Maybe I do have PTSD. And sure enough, I do.
Talking about PTSD, we're talking about individuals who have gone under a traumatic event. It's estimated that over 370,000 individuals returning from Afghanistan and also Iraq may be experiencing traumatic brain injury in association with post-traumatic stress disorder and also depression.
I didn't know what was going on with me. I thought it was just, you know, it was part of the post-war. So I just ignored it. That's when I actually found out that I did have PTSD, and you know, it was something I needed to talk to a doctor about.
And seeing the young kids that are coming through here, they're just really messed up. You know, it just makes you stop and think that, you know, what's really happening over there? You know, what are they seeing that we don't know?
When I was moving through Iraq, as I was moving through it, we had stopped a few times, and every stop it seemed like there was a torture chamber or something that was just still body parts and, you know, bodily fluid just caked on the walls. My second combat experience was when we was actually moving. We came across a village where we came into some small arms fire. We were being shot at, but we couldn't tell where it was coming from or who was shooting at us. So we just got out of this as fast as we could. But luckily, no one died.
Women are more likely to develop post-traumatic stress disorder. Men are more likely to be exposed to a trauma, mainly because men are more likely to be involved in dangerous occupations. So they're more exposed to trauma, but women are more likely to develop PTSD.
I have PTSD. I'm not comfortable around a big group of civilians.
Post-traumatic stress disorder itself may present with periods of what we call flashbacks. The person actually has a memory of what happened during the original trauma. They may be more irritable, demonstrate periods of hyperarousal. The individuals may have problems sleeping.
I had the outrage. I had a lot of anger. I had a lot of stress, depressed, anger issues. At night, at times, I still don't sleep very well. I can't watch some movies because of the noise and similarities from Iraq. And it's not that I try to avoid them. It's just certain things that actually trigger the mind where it takes me back, and that's when I either go into depression myself because it seems like I'm still there. So, and when people ask what's wrong, when I try to explain to them, they don't understand. I can tell them all day long, but they just don't understand. They don't know until they actually been there.
You are more likely to engage in, for example, speedy behavior while driving your automobile. You're more likely to actually engage in dysfunctional interpersonal interactions with your spouse. You're more likely to become aggressive if you have certain types of traumatic brain injury. And these events can bring you into closer contact with law enforcement.
Part of my PTSD is when I left before I came here, I was in an altercation with my ex and I was arrested and went to court. The charges were dropped. I paid all the fines, but when I did a background check on me, it still came up.
And I neglected to take care of some paperwork that was required for my nursing license. Unknowingly, but I'm ultimately responsible for that. And I ended up getting convicted of practicing nursing without a license for 8 months out of the 3 years that I worked at the hospital I worked at. And I was terrified. I was offered a plea agreement. I'd never been in trouble in my life. I was absolutely terrified. I was mortified. I was humiliated. So I took the plea agreement and I went straight on probation.
Coming back into civilian life is a risk factor in and of itself. Just having to readjust to living a civilian lifestyle when you've been potentially on edge every day, not knowing, if the next turn has a bomb around the corner or not. And, and all of our forces are seeing this.
I bounced from job to job because I felt like, everybody was after me. Everyone was harassing me. I couldn't, it was not just going to do a job and come home and, do your own thing. It felt like I was back in the military again.
10 years of nightmares, severe nightmares. You gotta understand, post-war syndrome, when we got back, nobody believed us. Nobody believed us. We didn't get the help that these kids can get today, and they need the help today.
When you're actually depressed, you feel like there's no hope, there's no light there. But when you actually get around other veterans, you think you're alone, but you're really not alone. I sometimes wonder if I am still alone, but as I get talking to other ones, I know I'm not, and that shows a little bit of light.
I hope this documentary gives people an opportunity to see that each one of us is unique. We each have our own set of problems, and we each have different goals and aspirations, but we all have one thing in common. We gave up our constitutional rights to protect yours because that's the only way you can do it. And we don't want anything from you. We just want you to not look at us in the face and make us feel ashamed of our situation.
Well, I think the attention for homelessness among veterans has been rising in general. I hope to see a sustained effort of that, and I believe we will, because I believe it's not a Republican issue, it's not a Democratic or independent issue, it's an American issue.
And I hope this new president does something, because our old president did nothing. And I hope he does something, you know, I really do. And Obama, if you're watching, you need to do something. It's just, you know, it's bad, but nobody believed us. Nobody, you know, it was there, but, you know, they didn't know what it was, you know. It just.
Veterans earn their benefits. They've been made a promise by Uncle Sam. You serve your country, here's what we're going to do for you. That promise has all too often been broken. So what that means is, yes, we have to fund all the services that have been promised to our veterans. We can't play politics with it, but the truth is we've got hundreds of thousands, not just with wounds that are visible, but wounds that are not. Like post-traumatic stress disorder, which is why I've said we have to screen every single person that gets out of our military, including National Guard and reservists. If they have post-traumatic stress disorder, they've got to receive those services, because that's the reason why veterans are 7 times more likely to be homeless than non-veterans. And that's a scandal. It is inexcusable. We should have zero tolerance for homelessness among veterans. We should have zero tolerance for homelessness generally, but especially for those who fought on our behalf.
Well, I'm not a veteran myself, so we'll start with that guilt feeling. But again, I grew up with the idea that we were to help assist, not because they earned it, the services that veterans should get.
I used to pray to God for a normal life. Just a normal life, just to get up, go to work, meet somebody, and took a long time to get here.
I just wanted an average life that everybody else wanted. I wanted to get married and have kids and, you know, buy a house and just live my life normally. But it just didn't work out that way.
So it's getting more normal every day. And I like it. I do, I like it. My new drug's money. That's my new drug. I got a bank account. I mean, damn, I got direct depositing. I mean, everybody gets paid on Friday. I get paid Thursday. I mean, hey, I haven't had a bank account ever. Never had a bank account. I mean, you know, it's, okay, now it seems, everybody out there seems silly. But you know what?
I'm recently trying to pick myself up, go to voc rehab and go to school, and maybe train into maybe in the medical field, something that is more stable, that I don't have to worry about the economy.
I've already got approval from state voc rehab for a 6-week program to be a peer mentor. I have daily support by my case manager, Teresa, and everybody on the staff here. I have hope and enthusiasm for the first time in such a long time. And having a safe place to sleep and a bus pass in my pocket and food to eat every day, I can accomplish the rest. Huh? Don't even start with me, Mike. Don't even start with me.
You know I got a pickle.
By Tuesday, I'd put out 65 resumes. I'm not dragging my feet whatsoever. I already have 5 interviews set up. Yeah. I look really good on paper. You should see my resume.
That's all right. You look really good this morning, too.
Thank you. Yeah, it took me a minute to gather some clothes.
I got one like that.
I've only been here since Friday. It feels so good to be dressed up. It's the first time I've been dressed up in months. In months and months and months.
Well, why don't you do that every day?
I didn't have any clothes until yesterday.
You do that every day, you look a whole lot better.
But I didn't have any clothes like this until yesterday.
That was yesterday.
Right, well now I'm gonna, well, except I get the weekends off unless I have a specific job interview.
Did you see?
Let's see.
Marines always look better in their uniform.
Of course they do.
That's exactly what my son said when he got out of basic training in the Corps. I said, oh man, you look so good. He said, Dad, everybody looks good in this uniform.
Oh yeah.
But not everybody can earn that uniform.
I earned it.
Anyone that wears it earned it. I have no doubt about that.
Have you ever seen there's a poem called The Title. I can't remember all of it, but it talks about the title that you can't buy it, you can't rent it, you can't inherit it. And you have to earn it through
blood, sweat,
and tears, and then it goes on and it says the title of the United States Marine. Yeah.
Gotta earn it through blood, sweat, and tears.
See, Mike, I know the reason that you harass me because you all are just jealous because I'm in the best branch of the military in the whole world.
Whoa,
excuse me.
Whoa.
I'm teasing him. He's always giving me grief about the Marine Corps.
Marine Corps, Island Bellhops.
Island bellhops. You're silly.
Somebody has to throw a joke once in a while.
Yes. Are we ready? Yes, we are. Until I stepped off the plane in Charleston, South Carolina to go to boot camp in Parris Island, and now I know what it's the dry heat means because it was so humid I thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
I'm going off to conquer another world.